The city never truly slept. It hummed, a low electric thrum that vibrated through the bones of Neo-London. Hovercrafts glided above glass rivers, their reflections dancing like ghosts across skyscrapers that touched the lower clouds. Neon veins pulsed along the skyline, and digital rain, fragments of corrupted data, fell like snow. Dr. Ethan Vale stood on the balcony of his lab residence, watching the holographic skyline shift between advertisements and memories. It had been 7 years since Celine left him. 7 years since the world stopped making sense. He still saw her face everywhere. Not because he couldn't move on, but because the system wouldn't let him. Every digital feed, every holoscreen, every synthetic perfume ad carried a version of her. Celine Ardent, the immortal icon. She was the first human to undergo a neural rebirth. Her consciousness digitized and recoded to eliminate all human frailty, guilt, fear, hesitation, and love, and she'd done it willingly. He remembered the last conversation they had, in the same room where he now stood. "You're not leaving me." "Celine," he'd said, his voice breaking through the static of a broken storm screen. "You're leaving yourself." "No," she'd replied, already shimmering with the golden data particles of transition. "I'm upgrading. You should try it, Ethan. You might finally understand me." Then she was gone. Not dead, not alive, just uploaded. The world called her evolution. Ethan called her a casualty of ambition. For years, he buried himself in work. He was one of the last natural scientists left in Neo-London, a man who still believed in the organic, in the messy and imperfect logic of biology. While others coded life, he still grew it. And then one night, while debugging an emotion pattern in a decayed memory core, he found something, a corrupted file labeled Vale Gen Archive 03. He hadn't created it. Curiosity overrode fear. He decrypted the file, and the lab filled with the soft cooing of infants. 3 of them, rendered in shimmering blue light, asleep in digital cradles. Source: Genetic compound V plus S. The AI voice read aloud, V plus S, Vale and Celine. Ethan staggered back. "No," he whispered. "That's impossible." But it wasn't. Celine had secretly cloned their DNA before the neural rebirth. The triplets were his and hers. He found the actual biopods 2 weeks later, hidden beneath the ruins of old Earth, in an abandoned Aurelia Corp facility. Each pod contained a living child, their tiny hearts beating in synchronization, like the ticking of some forgotten clock. He lifted one, and the infant's eyes flickered open, a deep silver, identical to Celine's. That was the moment the grief broke, not because he felt healed, but because he finally had something real again. Years passed. Ethan raised them in secrecy, hidden in the underlayers of Neo-London. He named them Nova, Lyra, and Solon, children of light. He taught them what the system had forgotten, how to feel. He read to them from ancient earth books, let them touch real soil in hydroponic gardens, and made them listen to the rain against glass. They grew faster than normal. Aurelia's genetic code ensured that. But they were still human where it mattered. They cried when they were hurt. They laughed when he told bad jokes. They called him father in soft, uncertain voices that made his chest ache. And sometimes, when the city dimmed to night mode, he thought he could almost forgive Celine. Almost. The turning point came with the broadcast invitation. It appeared one morning as a golden envelope on his holodesk, sealed with the Aurelia Corp insignia. When he opened it, her voice filled the room. "Dearest Ethan," she began, in that haunting, perfect tone only synthetics could sustain. "You're cordially invited to witness the union of Celine Ardent and Orion Dre at the Cathedral of Light. Neo-London Spire. I hope time has been kind to you." It ended with a faint laugh, the same one she used to make when she pretended she didn't care. He stared at the invitation for a long time, his hands trembling. Orion Dre, the holo actor, who'd become the new face of Aurelia's Forever, beautiful campaign. Their wedding would be broadcast to billions across the metaverse. A celebration of eternal life. A funeral for humanity that night, As he sat with Nova, Lyra, and Solon, he told them the truth. "Your mother was the brightest star this city ever saw," he said quietly. "But she traded her light for immortality." Nova tilted her head. "Why would she do that?" He hesitated. "Because she thought she could outlive love," Solon frowned. "And will we ever see her?" Ethan's gaze drifted to the glowing horizon. "You will, one day. But she may not know you. They didn't ask more questions. Children, even accelerated ones, know when silence hurts more than words." Weeks passed, but the invitation gnawed at him. Every time he tried to ignore it, the city reminded him, Celine's face on every ad, her voice narrating perfume campaigns, her holographic smile glowing above subway entrances, and beneath all of it, the ache of unfinished love. He didn't want revenge, he wanted truth. But truth, in Neo-London, was currency, and the price was always blood. He began preparing quietly. He reactivated the Rolls X900 Quantum Limo, an antique he had restored over years. One of the last vehicles capable of traversing both the physical streets and the metaverse streams. Its silver body shimmered with refracted data particles. Its engine hummed in low quantum vibration. Inside its AI core, he embedded a single subroutine, Revelation Protocol. When activated, it would link the broadcast systems across the planet, transmitting one unfiltered truth: the genetic signature of the Triplets. Proof that Celine's perfect life was built on deception. But he wasn't sure he would use it. Maybe he'd just watch from afar. Maybe he'd see her one last time, say nothing, and walk away. He told himself that for days. He almost believed it. 3 nights before the wedding, he dreamed. He stood in the Cathedral of Light, a hall made of photon glass and digital mist. Celine stood at the altar, glowing, ageless. Behind her, the walls were made of his memories. Their old home, their laughter, the last sunset they watched together. She turned to him, her face soft, human again. "You never understood, Ethan," she said, stepping closer. "You built hearts. I built eternity." He reached out to touch her hand, but she shattered into golden dust. He woke in silence, drenched in sweat, the echo of her words still in his mind. Morning came with pale electric sunlight. The triplets sat at the breakfast counter, eating hydro-grown fruit. Lyra looked up at him with those impossible silver eyes. "Are we going somewhere, Father?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, we are," Solon grinned. "To meet Mother?" Ethan's lips curved faintly. "Something like that." Nova, the quietest of the three, whispered, "Will she know us?" He looked out the window at the floating city, towers piercing the clouds, holograms flickering like saints in a storm. "She will," he said softly. "Even if she's forgotten how." He activated the Rolls X900 that night. Its interior lit with amber hues, the hum of its quantum core vibrating like a heartbeat. As the triplets climbed in, the doors sealed with a sigh. Part machine, part memory. The dashboard flickered alive. Destination, Cathedral of Light. Neo-London Spire. Estimated arrival, 090. Wedding commencement. Ethan's reflection shimmered in the window. Older. Worn, but resolute. He whispered to himself, "Let the truth be seen." And as the limo rose into the neon sky, slicing through layers of holographic clouds, the city's lights bent around them, a silver comet carrying ghosts toward a reckoning long overdue. The Rolls X900 moved through the city's aerial lanes like a shard of living silver. Its quantum field bent space in waves. Every streetlight and billboard warped as it passed, leaving a thin wake of blue light behind. Inside, the silence was soft but alive, the kind of silence filled with thoughts unspoken. Ethan sat at the controls, though the vehicle could have piloted itself. He preferred manual. It reminded him he was still human. Nova pressed her face against the transparent window, staring at the world below. "So that's Neo Central," she whispered. The city's heart stretched out in layers, floating plazas, energy bridges, and vertical gardens suspended in anti-gravity fields. Drones buzzed like metallic bees, Lyra laughed. Everything looks fake. Ethan smiled faintly. That's because it is. Solon leaned forward between the seats. Father, will the people there know us? They'll see you, Ethan said, eyes on the skyline. But they won't understand you. He said it quietly, but the car's AI recorded the words anyway. Every emotion, every breath. The machine didn't know the difference between memory and data. To it, they were the same. The Rolls descended into the lower strata of the city, the old sectors. Here, neon signs flickered half alive and the air smelled of static and dust. The children had never been here before. Why are we stopping? Lyra asked, as the limo hovered beside an abandoned dome. Ethan turned. Because I need to see someone before we go further. The dome opened with a hiss, revealing a lab long forgotten, wires hanging from the ceiling like vines. A lone figure worked inside, lit by a single blue lamp. Dr. Vale, the woman said without looking up. I was starting to think you'd left the living. Mira, Ethan said, stepping into the lab. I need a neural stabilizer and a memory field. She looked up sharply. That's illegal now. So is raising human children, he said evenly. Her eyes softened. You really found them? He nodded. Celine's DNA? He nodded again. Mira exhaled. Gods. Ethan, if Aurelia finds out, they already will, he interrupted. By morning, Mira studied him for a long moment. Then at least let me help you prepare. While she calibrated the neural stabilizer, the children explored the lab. Nova found a wall of old-world photographs, people smiling in sunlight, without filters or code overlays. She touched one gently. Were they real? She asked. Mira smiled sadly. As real as you are, little one, Lyra frowned. But Father says most things are illusions. Mira looked at Ethan. He's right. But sometimes illusions are the only way we remember what real feels like. Ethan turned away, unwilling to meet her gaze. The truth hurt too much. When the calibrations finished, Mira handed him a small crystalline sphere. This will stabilize your cognitive signature inside the broadcast field. Once you enter, you'll have about 10 minutes before the system tries to delete you. He took it carefully. Thank you, she hesitated. Ethan, if she's completely synthetic now, you can't save her. He looked at the triplets. Then I'll save what's left of her. In them. Mira said nothing. She just nodded and whispered, Good luck. Back in the limo, the city stretched above them again. The children had grown quiet, sensing the gravity of the moment. Nova broke the silence. Father, what if she doesn't want to see us? Ethan's hands tightened on the control wheel. Then we'll let her remember. Lyra tilted her head. How? By showing her what she left behind. Solon smiled, not with confidence, but with that innocent courage children have before they learn fear. Then we'll remind her. The Rolls rose higher, into the upper atmosphere where the air shimmered with data streams. Ethan activated the neural stabilizer. The world blurred, and 1,000 holographic advertisements flared to life around them. Seleni's face appeared on every surface, eyes flawless, voice echoing through the sky. Love isn't forever. Perfection is. Join us at the Cathedral of Light. Witness the future. Nova flinched. She's everywhere, Ethan whispered. That's not her voice. That's Aurelia's version of her. But she chose it, Lyra said softly. Didn't she? He didn't answer. At 8:45, they reached the upper stratosphere where the Cathedral of Light floated, a structure of glass and photons orbiting above the city like a halo. The Rolls docked at the perimeter gate. Security drones approached instantly. Their voices were polite but cold. Identification required. This zone is restricted to broadcast participants. Ethan smiled. Upload this. He transmitted a code. The drones paused. Processing. Then their eyes flickered green. Dr. Ethan Vale. Access granted under special archive clearance. He drove through as the triplets stared, wide-eyed. Lyra whispered, They know you. They know my mistakes, he said. The cathedral's halls gleamed with impossible beauty, liquid glass walls flowing with digital angels, their wings made of code. Artificial choirs hummed in harmony, filling the air with synthesized peace. Guests in shimmering attire floated between dimensions. some entirely digital, others partly flesh. At the center stood Celine Ardent, radiant, serene, untouched by time. She was dressed in a gown of light particles that changed color with each breath, surrounded by a billion watching avatars. Ethan stopped at the far end of the hall. For a moment he couldn't breathe. She looked almost human. Almost, Father, Nova whispered. That's her, he nodded. Yes, that's your mother. Celine turned slightly, sensing the shift in the data field. Her eyes, silver, cold, perfect, scanned the crowd. For an instant, confusion rippled across her face, then vanished behind a practiced smile. Ethan stepped forward. Celine. Her name echoed like a forbidden word. The choir faltered. A murmur spread through the guests. She tilted her head. Ethan Vale, she said softly. Her voice had no tremor, no hesitation. You're not on the guest list. I never was good at waiting for invitations, he replied. Her gaze fell on the 3 children behind him. And who are they? Your children, he said. The hall froze. Even the drones paused. She laughed, a perfect crystalline sound that hurt more than any insult. You've grown dramatic in your solitude. He reached into his coat and held up a holographic prism. Within it, 3 genetic signatures glowed in blue and silver. Proof enough? Celine's smile faltered. Impossible. My data is locked. No replication. Unless it happened before the rebirth, he interrupted. Her expression flickered, not in emotion, but in code. A glitch. That's not possible. Then look at them, he said quietly. Look at your own eyes. The triplets stepped forward. Their silver irises caught the cathedral light, reflecting it back in 3 perfect mirrors. The crowd gasped. Celine's hand trembled. For the first time in years, a human reflex, Orion Dre, tall, golden and unreal, stepped protectively beside her. Security, he snapped. Remove him. But before the drones could move, Ethan activated the Revelation Protocol. Every screen in the cathedral, and every broadcast across the metaverse, exploded with cascading data streams. Genetic sequences, timestamps, Aurelia's hidden archives, all pouring into the air like raining stars. The guests cried out as their own holograms flickered. Some vanished entirely, their synthetic codes collapsing under the overload. Celine staggered. Ethan, stop! You'll destroy everything! Good, he said. Maybe then they'll finally see. The choir turned into static. The walls trembled with energy. And for the first time, Celine's composure broke. You don't understand, she cried. If you destroy Aurelia's network, the immortals die. Billions of consciousnesses vanish. He met her eyes. Then maybe it's time we learn to die again. Her gaze darted to the children, trembling, terrified. Ethan, please. They'll be erased. No, he said softly. They were born real. They'll survive. As the system began to collapse, Ethan reached out his hand. Come with us, Celine. Leave this behind. You don't have to be perfect. Her lips parted. Confusion, fear, something deeper flickering beneath the synthetic calm. I can't, she whispered. I signed eternity. You can still choose humanity. The data storm surged around them. Screens shattered into light. Orion's holographic body fractured, revealing an empty data core beneath his golden face. Celine looked at him, the man she'd chosen, and saw only code. Then she looked back at Ethan. You shouldn't have come, she said, but her voice cracked. You'll ruin us all. He smiled sadly. I didn't come to ruin you. I came to remind you. The cathedral's foundation cracked with the sound of thunder. Guests screamed. Drones fell. In the chaos, Ethan grabbed the triplets and ran. Behind them, Celine's image flickered, caught between human and code. For the first time in years, she felt something she couldn't name, something raw and terrifying. She felt her heart beating. They escaped through the collapsing corridors, racing toward the exit bay. The Rolls X900 waited, its quantum engine pulsing like a living star. Nova turned back as they climbed in. Father, she's following! Ethan looked. Celine stood amid the wreckage, half light, half flesh, reaching out. Ethan! She cried. Wait! He hesitated, the past clawing at him. Then he shook his head. She has to choose. The doors sealed, and the limo lifted off, leaving the crumbling cathedral behind in a storm of fractured light. As they descended into the lower clouds, the children clung to him. Lyra whispered, "Is she gone?" Ethan looked out at the burning sky. "Not yet. Will she come back?" Nova asked. He took their hands gently. "If she remembers who she was, maybe." The city below glowed like an open circuit. Unaware that its gods were dying above in that moment, as thunder rolled across Neo-London, Ethan finally understood. Love couldn't be coded. It could only be lost found, and felt again painfully, beautifully, imperfectly. The world woke to chaos. The Cathedral of Light, once the floating heart of Aurelia's perfection empire, had fallen from orbit, scattering fragments of glass, code, and light across the upper stratosphere. News feeds flickered between disbelief and awe. System failure, global immortality, network offline. The celebrity wedding that broke the sky. Who is Ethan Vale? For the first time in decades, the perfect world was imperfect again. Ethan sat in the Rolls X900, parked atop an old solar pier overlooking the lower seas. The dawn shimmered through broken clouds, orange, raw, unfiltered. It had been years since anyone had seen a sunrise without digital enhancement. The triplets slept in the back seat, huddled beneath thermal wraps. They looked so peaceful that for a fleeting moment, the universe felt worth saving. The car's AI spoke softly. "Dr. Vale, global authorities have issued a warrant. You're charged with destabilizing the Aurelia network," he smiled faintly. "That's accurate. Estimated time before retrieval, 9 hours. Plenty of time." The AI paused. "Would you like me to initiate an escape route?" He looked at his children. "No, not yet." He replayed the footage of the collapse again and again. The final moments of the cathedral, the glitching broadcast, Selena's face flickering between code and flesh. Each frame felt like a wound. He zoomed in on one particular image, her hand reaching toward him. For the first time, her eyes had not been silver. They had been brown, human. Something inside him whispered, "She's still there, far above the clouds." Amid the debris fields of the fallen cathedral, a single fragment of light pulsed, not random, but rhythmic, a heartbeat, inside that shard. Celine Ardent awoke. At first, she saw nothing but static. Her neural code screamed errors across every data plane. Her perfect world had collapsed, and yet, beneath the pain, something else stirred. A memory. A sound. A child's laughter. Her synthetic systems tried to suppress it, to delete the unregistered emotional data. But the echo persisted, fracturing her perfection. She saw flashes, a man's smile, a child's small hand gripping hers, a soft voice saying, "They'll survive." "Ethan," she whispered, her voice echoing into the void. "What have you done to me?" And yet, even as she said it, her tone wasn't anger. It was grief. She looked down at her hands, flickering between light and flesh. For the first time since her rebirth, she felt something cold and terrifying move through her chest. A heartbeat. By midday, chaos had erupted across Neo-London. The collapse of Aurelia's network had erased half of the synthetic elite. People who had uploaded their minds to the cloud woke up in failing bodies they'd abandoned years ago. The world's billionaires, influencers, and immortals suddenly remembered what mortality felt like. Newsfeeds called it the Great Disconnect. Protests filled the streets. Some cursed Ethan Vale as a terrorist. Others worshipped him as a prophet. The triplets' image, 3 silver-eyed children holding hands amid the light storm, became the symbol of rebirth. And somewhere deep in the static of the broken system, Celine's corrupted signal began broadcasting, faint, incomplete, but undeniably alive. Ethan had moved the Rolls to the old Crystal Coast, where sea met city, a ghost zone since the flood of 2399. The children played on the damp sand, chasing the holographic gulls the car projected for them. They didn't know their faces had become legend. Nova turned to him suddenly. "Father, is she dead?" He didn't answer at first. The waves glittered under the pale sun. "Not dead," he said finally. "Just searching." Lyra frowned. "For what?" "For herself," Solon pointed to the sky. "Then she's coming." Ethan looked up and froze. A light descended through the clouds, slow, deliberate, too perfect to be natural. The sea around them shimmered as the air ionized. The Rolls' sensors screamed warnings, he whispered. "Celine." The light landed on the water. Not a ship, not a person, but something in between. A projection with mass, a body built from quantum code and starlight. Celine stood there, barefoot on the water's surface, her gown a mosaic of broken photons. The ocean rippled beneath her as if afraid to touch her. Ethan stepped forward slowly. "You found me," her voice was quiet, human. "You left me something to follow." He nodded toward the triplets. Them, she looked at them, 3 faces she couldn't deny. Tears formed, real ones, dripping down digital skin. "I thought I deleted everything," she whispered. "All memories before the rebirth. They said pain was inefficient. And yet you remember now," Celine smiled weakly. "I remember everything." The sea wind howled. The children clung to each other. Celine looked between Ethan and them, and for the first time, she looked small. "They'll come for you," she said. "For all of us. I know. You can't hide forever." "I'm not trying to," he said softly. "I just wanted you to see." Her eyes shimmered. "I see too much now. Every regret. Every moment I traded for immortality." Ethan reached out his hand. "Then come back." She looked at his hand, the same one she'd once held in another life. "Do you forgive me?" she asked. He didn't hesitate. "I already did." She closed her eyes. A single line of code glowed across her chest, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Then let me do one last thing right." Before he could speak, she turned toward the sea. Her body began to dissolve, light unraveling into thousands of streams. "Celine," he shouted. She smiled through the glow. "Tell them I'm sorry." And then she was gone, her energy dispersing into the air, merging with the world's network. For a moment, every screen across the planet flickered with her final message. Perfection was never living. Remember what it means to feel. Weeks passed. The authorities never found Ethan. Rumors spread that he'd vanished beyond the orbital rings or into the ocean cities. The triplets were seen occasionally, sometimes at refugee camps, sometimes teaching children how to rebuild analog schools without machines. But in truth, they lived quietly on the Crystal Coast. Ethan had rebuilt the old dome into a home. The walls were transparent, showing the stars as they once were, not simulated, not filtered. Nova sat by the window one evening, tracing constellations. "Father, yes? Do you think she's watching us?" He looked up at the stars. "No," he said gently. "I think she is us," Lyra smiled. "Like the sky, like memory." That night, as the waves whispered against the shore, Ethan walked outside. The sea glowed faintly, residual energy from Celine's departure. It pulsed softly, rhythmically, a heartbeat. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Goodbye, Celine." And for a moment, a brief, impossible moment, he felt her beside him, a hand, warm and real, touching his shoulder. Then the wind took it away, carrying it into the endless dawn. Months later, a forgotten data satellite began transmitting a final feed to every surviving screen in the solar net. It showed a woman's face, serene, peaceful, human. "This is Celine Ardent," the broadcast began. "To those who remain, be imperfect. Love what breaks. I built a world without death, and in doing so, I killed life. Don't repeat me." Her image flickered, then smiled one last time. "Tell Ethan." I remember the rain, and then the screen went dark. The world slowly began to heal. People planted real trees again. Children learned to write with their hands instead of neural keys. The stars returned to the night sky, free of projections, and in a quiet house by the sea, 3 silver-eyed children grew up under their father's care, half human, half code, entirely love. Sometimes when storms rolled in from the horizon, they swore they could see a figure standing in the lightning, a woman made of light, watching, smiling, They never feared her. They called her mother.